Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to my review of Bloodborne. As always, let's start with my cards on the table. First off, I've never played Demon Souls, Dark Souls or Dark Souls 2, and although Bloodborne's not directly linked to these, it is seen as a successor or a kind of a distant cousin of this series. Secondly, I did not complete the game on my own. On a handful of bosses I summoned co-op help, not just to ease my own sanity, but also to see what it's like and how it worked. I also joined a Dark Souls and Bloodborne support group on Facebook, which is made up of the members of the Game Central community on the Metro website, which as some of you may know, I've written a couple of reader features there for them. Thirdly, in all honesty, I am not a massive fan of hard games generally. I very rarely put games on the top difficulty. In Bloodborne's case, you don't get a choice. The game is what it is, and you either adapt and overcome, or you're going to wilt and crumble. Bloodborne's presentation, its performance, in terms of its aesthetic, it's very dark and gothic, but it looks great and it fits perfectly with the tone of the universe. It's dingy, it's unsettling, and it's a great looking game. Whether it's the blood splattering all over you as you slaughter your prey, or just taking a look up at the dead black sky and seeing the glimpse of moonlight shining through. It's a fantastic looking game. The negatives are when it comes to its frame rate. You know, it chugs along at certain points in the game, and I noticed things like popping on objects, and in one area an enemy was popping in, which was the last thing I needed when I was clinging on for dear life. And there's a lot of clipping in the game too, and you know, there's little bits and bobs, like little minor things. The load times look like they were an issue when it first launched. It's been patched, but they still feel a tad lengthy, not enough to completely get up your nose and ruin the experience. It's not perfect, but it does enough to get by, and it's mitigated by how good the art style actually is. Bloodborne at heart is an action role-playing game. You're primarily going to be using melee combat to defeat your enemies, and each enemy you defeat, you'll learn something called blood echoes. You use these to level up your character and also to buy items, weapons and upgrades. So your currency and your XP isn't segregated, and you're going to have to make a choice at certain points on what to use your blood echoes on. And it's important that you make a choice and actually spend these echoes, because you cannot bank them. If you die whilst you're out in the world, you lose them, no matter how many you're carrying. You get one shot to return to the scene of the crime and pick them up, but if you die before you can get them back, they are gone forever. So your echoes are very, very important, and they're super easy to lose, and this cranks up the tension and makes the stakes feel so high on every single encounter. It doesn't matter how big or small the enemy is, they're all capable of putting you down. When it comes to the actual combat, it's fast and fluid, it's smooth as you like. Every input works without question. You can parry using your gun, you can use projectiles to lure enemies, you can transform your weapons into ranged versions. With each weapon have a number of different combos and different attacks you can use. You've got an abundance of strategies here that you can utilise, and Bloodborne caters for all different play styles, so you can mix and match your weapons and items to see how you're going to get on, how you're going to progress. One of the little cool features is that when you take damage, you lose your health, temporarily, but if you inflict damage on your opponent quickly enough, you can regain it. So it encourages you to be aggressive and get in their face, and being aggressive and getting in their face is sometimes not what you're going to want to do when it comes to the bosses. Now, there are tons and tons of these. They're all very different. They all require different tactics to beat them, but often you can use one of several strategies to get past them. So once again, it lets you play to your own personal strengths to progress. There's an online aspect of Bloodborne where you can request help from other players. You can go and help other players, and in certain stages of the game you can be invaded in a PvP element. They all work very well, even the PvP part of Bloodborne, which might put some people off having online on, but really it's such a small part of this enormous game, and you can carry out certain actions to prevent invasions from happening. So I honestly would not worry about that part of the game. Keep online switched on, definitely adds to it. During co-op and invasions themselves, there's no voice chat to deal with, so that's a glorious way to do it, in my opinion. It fits the context of the game, and it means you haven't got to deal with someone else's babbling and rubbish. It just works, and if you want to communicate, you can use the gestures in the game, and for me that's perfect. One of the best features in my view is that there's player notes that can be left and that are scattered about by other players. So They've come along, they can leave a note warning you about upcoming danger, they can suggest that there's treasure ahead, or in some cases people are just there to troll you hard and you'll end up walking down into your death. You can leave your own notes. Now, they're not free format, so instead you use a number of predefined sentences and words to construct your cryptic message. If someone reads your notes and deems it to be helpful, they can rate it as fine. If they do this, you'll be fully healed whilst you're in battle or walking around the world. Fantastic idea. It's saved me a number of times, especially during boss battles, that I finally get a note that's rated as fine. And it really encourages people to leave helpful notes and builds this almost a community within the game itself. As you probably know, Bloodborne is not going to wipe your ass. There are no waypoints. There's no auto regeneration of health. No maps. No clean objectives. You're left to explore this incredibly well designed world, and it really is so clever the way the levels are constructed and the way they all link back in. But you're left to figure out what to do and how to do it. From Software have not compromised Bloodborne for the sake of the player's ability. Yes, it can be punishingly difficult, absolutely. However, the personal sense of achievement when you finally discover something as simple as a new shortcut tops any arbitrary item reward that you might pick up in this or in any other game. Bloodborne is littered with these feel-good moments and it baits you back into the game. And it's because From Software don't sway away from this philosophy, and it means that the payoff for progression outstrips any conventional game that you're going to come across. They don't budge when it comes to the story element of Bloodborne either. The lore of this universe is incredibly in-depth and it's got a lot of variety, but once again you're going to have to work for it. You're not going to get cutscenes explaining to you what's going on or even what you're doing half the time. If you want to know what you're doing and who the people are, you're going to have to go out there and explore, read notes, talk to NPCs and put the story together yourself. And for me, that's actually okay. Bloodborne was far more of a personal and intimate game because it focuses on you, the player. It respects you enough to make the game challenging, and From Software have the confidence that you will find a path through the game and conquer it. It wants you to learn and it wants you to succeed despite how difficult it can be. If you manage to figure out its complex lore as you're doing so, then that's a bonus. It's far better that when you've been humbled on a specific boss for hours and hours, finally beating them by learning and improving as a player. That's the real story of what Bloodborne is, in my opinion. And as I wrap up this review, you need to understand a few things about Bloodborne. It takes away all of modern gaming's hand-holding and it's going to be a complete shock to you. It's up to you as the player to find a way to progress. You will die. Lots, in fact. Probably more than any other game you've played. And trust me, every single death, barring maybe one or two, is going to be your fault. It's going to be your fault. You haven't been good enough to get past that stage at that time. You're going to feel inadequate. You're going to feel humble. And you're probably going to lose hope. But that's perfectly normal. You know, you're going to need to learn, you're going to need to adapt, and you're going to need to overcome. And it's going to give you a very unique game experience like no other. Of course, unless you're a pro at the Soul series games already. My official grading for Bloodborne is gold. Thanks for your time, and ta-da.